Good evening, all of you. I hope all of you are fine. And we're going to start our SAT classes today. And what better way um, to start the classes with a reading class? Before talking about anything else, let's talk about reading. Now, when I am trying to talk about reading, I have a lot of memories that are related, are fond memories of my childhood when my father used to get a monthly subscription of books, and we were of a different. We used to get the monthly subscription of a book called Chandamama, and then we had a newspaper coming home, and we were asked to read. That's what reading was. That by the end of the day, when my dad used to come back from office, he would like ask, what did we read? My brother would hang on to some sports activities, and I would hang on to some movies and stuff, or something to do with femininity and all that stuff. Yeah, that's what it is. And every month he used to get us a book called Chandamama. And whenever we used to get that, like me and my brother used to have a tug of war to make sure that we actually who gets to put their hands on the book first. So we would like share the time, and then we would like read each story, and then we would discuss, and there would be a lot of things, some moral stories, uh, some Vikram and Betal. That's a story about kings, and that's again a sort of a quizzical and a sort of a story where you had to think and you had to analyze and stuff like that. So we would then discuss, and that's how my memories with reading is. Apart from that, my dad used to have a local what do I say, library, where he would maintain a lot of regional books. I mean, he used to have a small, he was very fond of books, and there would be a couple of some English books too. And I would sneak in. I mean, in those days we were not allowed to read anything and everything. We were like discreet as to what to be read and what we shouldn't be reading. So these books, I would sneak into it and then pick up those books, and they would read. That's how I started reading, and that's how I used to like every month when he would add his new books, I would like try to put my hands on it and then read when he was not there, in hiding actually, and then analyze it. But yet, my journey into reading has not been easy. We are not native speakers of English, and that makes us difficult because we don't give too much importance to vocabulary. Like, we do speak, but then vocabulary is not something that we use profusely. We are like use I mean basically we try to tend to end up sentences and short sentences, and then we try to maintain this flow and fluency, but yet not like the native speakers. Okay, and yeah, as a child, my dad would actually definitely ask me to sit with the dictionary and then pick up some words and blah blah blah, and I would also do it da da da. But then that was never a proper one. I mean, it was always a lazy one, picking up some few words here and there. And then when I was reading, I would just pick up randomly contextual meaning of the books rather than the actual meaning. So it was only, and I went on to read literature. It went on. I mean, the reading was that I was into reading, but then contextually, I would try to understand the meaning of the words. So what had happened is, down the lane, it just, sometimes I misunderstood. It was only when I was trying to give my GRE exam, though I completed my literature, but still there was no emphasis that I had to learn vocabulary. So, but when I was doing my GRE exam, I sit in the class, and the sir with big spectacles comes over, and then he starts, we'll start vocabulary. And then I said, what vocabulary? Ah, I know most of the words. And then he says that you need to read 3,500 words to crack this GRE exam. And I was like, 3,500? How? That's okay. I've read a lot of books. Contextually, I'll understand. But the moment he started, it's a beautiful small room that we had. We had around 10 to 12 students in the class. And I mean, the capacity of the room was almost 15 to 20 students could sit. But our batch was of 10 to 12 students. Sometimes some students from the other batches would come in. And then the entrance of the room went out into a balcony, and we could move out of the lane. But then there was just a parapet wall and a balcony. Basically, it was a balcony, so there was a parapet wall. I would often want to jump off the parapet wall because the vocabulary was so heavy, and the teacher would just go on, and I would like, how the hell is he able to remember so many words? Or it was difficult, really difficult. So what I did, I tried to mug it up, but since the beginning I was very bad at mugging up. Then we had someone called Raja sir. He was an amazing person. Again, I used to think, is he a walking encyclopedia or something that you remember so many words? He used to make word maps, blah, 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 so many things. But then, when it came to reading passages, you know what? I always feared. I always, whatever, how many ever books I read, I don't think that was enough for me to basically read or to understand. Okay? So, when I became an SAT teacher, I decided to basically break it down and make it more easier to how to start reading. So I often start my classes with this introduction to reading session, which will actually tell you how to read. Why should you read? What is reading? And why is it so difficult? Okay, so I had my own memories of my childhood, which was like, monthly reading and all that stuff, daily reading and all that stuff. But I tell you, when it came to serious reading, it did not really help. Because I had the habit, might be my journey was easier, but I tell you, at whatever journey you start, it is not going to be easier. It has to be, it needs some work, it needs some energy, it needs some focus, is what I understood. So that's what I'm going to do. Make your work easier, make your path. I already have a beaten path, so you could just use that. So this is Deepa. I'm your English, SAT verbal teacher mostly, and I mean most of the classes you will see me, and I am basically both. I have done both my masters in English and literature. I'm sorry, literature and psychology. That makes me a psychologist. I've lately published my book, Para. I'm an author of the book. You can find me on Amazon, Flipkart, Instagram, everywhere. You just have to type my name, Deepa MSL, and you will see me there. Apart from that, I have been an academician for the past 15 years, dealing from children from all walks of life. So that makes me, I have my own journey, and apart from that, I have made, worked as a, faculty, English faculty for students of all walks of life. So from literally from the third grade students to postgraduates, employees, everybody has been my student. So that makes me easier to understand what you're looking at, what is it that you're, what is it that you want, and how is it going to how can I make your journey easier? So this is about me, and this is about my experiences with reading. So now let us see, what are we going to read? Why should we read? Why should we read at all? Do we have an idea as to why should we read? I tell you, though I started early, I still have loved the journey of reading. Could you see the image there? You know, that girl, she's in the book and she's completely transformed into a different world. You know, you can see her, you know, reading, and, you know, for me, reading has been an experience that actually I cannot experience in my life. For example, you know, whatever character you are reading, you experience, you know, it left to your imagination, and the book has the capability to take you into a different world. If you're reading J.K. Rowling's books, you would be transported to a magical world. If you're reading a Percy Jackson, you would be transported to a fantasy world. You know, you have so much you could do with reading. All right. So, you know, when I started reading The God of Small Things, written by Arundhati Rai, it was like I could actually imagine the life in Kerala, the way the men, the weather there, the way they wear their clothes, what they eat, how they dress up, how they think, how they speak. It's like that. So, why should we read? We should read to experience. It's not possible to experience every experience in life. So, with reading, you can actually be the protagonist of all the stories that you read. You know, I have this experience of initially, I know, when I decided that no, GRE is not going to terrify me, and GRE does not have the ability to terrify me. What I did is I started out working out like this. I would just lock up in a room for almost 1 year. I mean, basically just moving out of the house for some basic stuff like, you know, working or eating or cooking, and then come back to my room and just go on reading. You know, I started off reading Mills and Boons. Yeah, it's quite crude for my age. I mean, too much for my age. Like, it's too, yeah, too childish for my age then. But then those books were so beautiful that, you know, I just wanted this. I just had this you know, this plunge. I mean, I just want to plunge into the book. So that was how I started my journey with books. And after, it was just for 1 full year that I did that, and within 3 months, I tell you, the sentences that I would formulate in my head were faster than what I could think. Okay, so they would just come out. You don't have to have an effort. So reading not only enables you to understand and comprehend things better, but it also enables you to think faster. It also enables you to find a solution in a situation, or, you know, you just have an idea as to what to do next, because you have read people who have gone through things in their life and how they sorted it out. So, you know, reading has made me a better person. So, what is your experience about it? Let's just get a small hang of it. You know, nowadays we see less and lesser people reading books. So, let's talk about something. Tell me about one book that you read. Now, as nowadays we were talking about less and lesser people reading, so we could also talk about a web series. So, tell me one book that you read or a web series that you watched and you loved it. The first thing goes with the name of the book or the web series. I could start it off like that. Okay, so I'm talking about a book, but you could also talk about a web series if you don't have a name of the book that you really liked. Now, who is the author of the book or the web series that we're talking about, or the characters in the book or the web series that we're talking about, and what is the summary, the gist? Okay, what is it all about? Your understanding, okay, of the book or the web series, and then which is your favorite character. For example, let me take the example of Game of Thrones. If you ask me about a book, I can tell you that I like this book, The Good Earth. Okay, the name of the book is Good Earth, And when I read about this book, Good Earth, it was written by Pearl Yes Buck. And why I liked it? Because after reading that book, I really had this idea as to what's the background of the book was. It was a Chinese, it was a Chinese background, Chinese background in the sense the life of China, and how it was so difficult for laborers, how they were used as slaves in royal house, noble houses, and how it was all about. So the characters in the book, the summary of the book also won a Nobel Prize. You could check that book out. It's an amazing book to start with. I did this after I transited from reading Milton Boons. Then I went on to read Barbara Cartland. And once I did all these childish romantic novels, then I walked over to these books like Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead and Pearl Yes Buck's The Good Earth. These were the books that Arundhati Roy is The God of Small Things. All these books I just read. So what I would say is it's a journey we're talking about. So let's just keep writing. So the summary, I just love this book, Pearl Yes Buck, where I get to know the life of Chinese people, basically the laborers, how they climb the ladder and how they go about it. So that is the gist of the book. I mean, and which is your favorite character? Definitely I would like the character of the woman, Alma. I don't actually remember the name of the character. She's an amazing, strong character who starts her life as a wife, as a slave, but then later somebody marries her and then she goes on to help him. How she just labors a child and after 4 hours she's back with her husband to harvest a crop. The strength in that woman is like amazing. That's what I liked about that book. Then you could talk about how do you rate the book on a scale of 10. Come on, it's a book that has won a Nobel Prize, so I cannot be so very judgmental. I would give a 9 on a 10. I mean, that was amazing book. Will you recommend it? Will I recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it. If you have that urge to know about different cultures and know about different ways of living life and how people actually suffer but they don't yield to it, this is the book. Why will you recommend it? Yes, why should I recommend it? Because I wouldn't say it's a must read and you should read it, but actually if you are that person who would empathize with people and actually you are that person who can feel the sadness or the thing in a person, definitely this book is for you. So I will recommend it. And the way the Chinese life has been depicted in this book is like the amazing stuff. How the women have been depicted, the way their culture has been beautifully weaved together, from from how the women bind their feet to how they make their hair, to how they keep themselves tender. There's so many things that you will learn in this book about the culture of the Chinese. So that was an amazing thing. So I would recommend it for that. Now, if we are talking about a web series, only guys, if you don't have one book which you could talk about, so this is a web series that we are going to talk about. Nowadays we tend to see a lot of web series, and I don't think that you would have never read you have seen a web series. So come on, I'm going to start with the web series Game of Thrones. I hope most of you might have seen it. So the name of the web series is Game of Thrones. Who is the author? He is the book is basically from the song of I don't completely remember the name of the book. It's basically a set of sequence of books called the Song of Dash, something like that. And this Game of Thrones, has been taken, excerpted from there, and they have completely picturized it and made it into a beautiful web series of 8 seasons. Now, who are the characters? Yes, there are multiple characters, but the best character that I liked is Jon Snow, because of various reasons. I mean, if you are the one who have seen Game of Thrones, then you would know Jon Snow too. So I think it would be easier for us to talk about him. Okay, the summary of the book. The summary of the book is nothing is more important than the people around you, and nothing is more important than the lives of the people. It's basically set in a different era. So there you are still, it's still a primitive medieval way of living lives, where you use ships and horses and stuff like that, and you still believe in black magic, and you still believe in supernatural powers, at some kind of things like that. So a small thing of a fantasy world. So that is still a medieval period where you had dragons and you had stuff like that. So the summary of the book is that. Now, which is your favorite character? Now I talk about Jon Snow. Jon Snow is my favorite character because I feel his character has a lot of substance. He was always abandoned. I mean, since the beginning, he was abandoned because his mother died and she left him with his uncle. But yet, people mistreated him. I mean, his uncle's wife actually mistreated him, but he did not take it, and he just went on. Though he went to the wall to be to be a security, like a security guard or something like that. But then he didn't give up. He worked for the people. He fought for the people. He wanted a better world. Okay, so that's what I liked about Jon Snow. Even he could have had the world under his feet, he still chose to be righteous. That's what I like about Jon Snow. So, how do you rate the book on the scale of 10, or a web series on the scale of 10? An 8.5 or a 9 on 10? 8.5 on 10, because definitely I was still hurt that Jon Snow was sent back to the wall. Okay, any which ways, but it was an amazing thing. Will you recommend it? Yes, I would recommend it, so that you know better about different strategies that are used in wars, which you don't no longer use these days, or to understand different culture, to understand different mindsets, and understand that what we think, what our perception is just limited. We should have, there is a horizon of perspectives, and which can actually change the way we think about things. Okay, so will you recommend it? Yes, I recommend it to all the students. It will give them a better understanding of different characters and different mindsets and stuff like that. Why will you recommend it? I think the answer is there. So we spoke about both a book and a web series. The reason why I spoke about a web series is, if at all you have not read a book that is worth telling, you could talk about a web series that's worth telling. So that's the whole perspective of this. So let's go to the next slide. I mean, so once this work is over, I give you 3 minutes time to complete this work. Hope that would be enough. Let's start. You could write about your book or your web series. Completely fine. If you think that, on the dot, when I have asked you all this, so it will be difficult for you to answer, or it will be difficult for you to think about a book, or you would need more time, just click a picture of this thing and then keep it ready, so that you could just dig out, and after the class is over, the session is over, you could just go over it and think and talk about a book or a web series. Why are we doing this? Any ideas as to why are we doing this? We are doing this because we need to understand that reading a book is just not reading. We need to have a hang of all these things. Once we get a hang of what we are reading, it will be easier for us to prepare for our SATs. Now, reading passages. Now, I'm going to connect from reading, from vocabulary, from reading novels to what you have read before, or a web series that you've seen before, to the reading passages. Now, how? How am I going to connect it? What are basically reading passages? Where do they come from? Why should you read it? What should you read? Now, these are all the questions that boggle your mind all the time. And I would tell you, I would completely let you go through a beautiful way of, understanding as to what are reading passages. Reading passages are basically excerpts or pieces from different articles, different magazines on diverse topics like speeches. It could be, it could be a speech, it could be a it could be a literature stuff, it could be some research, scientific research on biology or psychology or geology or geography. There are a number of research that goes on, so that could be one from them. Or it could be some, historical stuff, a lot of information about something, about an historical fact or a war or an era. That could be anything. So these are basically reading passages. So why do we read books? To make sure that we are able to understand the reading passages better. So if I say kickstart with reading passages and answer the questions, we will come down to what is reading passages in a more elaborate way as we go along. But as of now, we are going to understand that reading passages are going to be, a bit not difficult stuff, not difficult, I would say, interesting stuff from diverse, subjects. So if you kickstart your program with some reading stuff, you will be able to understand things better and in a faster way. So that's how it goes. So why should we read it? We should read it to gain experience. We should read it to gain more proficiency in reading and comprehending. Basically, all these international tests are not only basic English tests that you do in your 10th class at the end of your 10th grade or your 12th grade or your 11th grade, but they are psychometric tests. When I say psychometric test, it means that they're more about trying to understand your comprehension levels. Where do you stand? I mean, what is your level of understanding? The kind of answers you choose from, that will determine where you stand. What should you read? You should be reading from all the English-based, magazines. Not any magazine, but basically New York Times or The Hindu is one newspaper that has absolutely good, level of English. What should you read? You should not be reading those sports columns or those movie columns or those what our favorite cine stars are doing, but we are going to talk about the editorials part that you find in every newspaper written by a specific dignitary. You will find an editorial page. You just have to flip the papers and then you will see an editorial page. That's what you are supposed to be reading. Okay, what to do after you have read? Like, see, if you're reading a book, I have told you what you have to do. Tell the name of the book, who is the author, who are the characters, what is the summary, which character did you like the most, will you recommend it on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, how do you rate it, will you recommend the book, do you think it is important, I mean, why will you recommend the book? These are all the things that we need to know about a book. So please start doing this. It's really going to be better. I mean, it is really going to help you a lot. Now, when you're reading passages, just don't jump into the question and answers, but give it some time, let it soak, and start reading stuff from here and there. And after you have read, brainstorm the theme. What does a theme mean? For example, if you're going for a garba or a Navaratri dandiya, how do you dress up? Do you dress up in a jeans and would you dress up like a cowboy? No, right? Or if you're going to a Halloween party, how do you dress up? You don't dress up like a princess, right? You would wear something weird. I mean, you would use those black, brown colors. I mean, so in the same way, brainstorm the theme. What is the theme of the text that you are reading? Whether it is what kind of a stuff is it? Is it an history stuff, or is it about a war? Is it about the daily life, or is it about social issues or economy? What is it about? So brainstorm the theme. It is very important. The next one is skim the text. When you're reading, you have like two kinds of things that you have to do. One is scanning and the other one is skimming. What does a skim mean? The skim means that the extensive information about a topic or superficial information about the topic. Whenever we see a trailer, what do we see? We just see the superficial events in the movie, right? So that's what skimming the text is, just to find out some sprinkle of words from the text to understand better as to what the text means. How do you skim? Reading the opening and the ending paragraphs of the text will definitely help you. Now, we spoke about vocabulary, we spoke about how difficult it was for me when I started, started or tried to give my GRE. Now, vocabulary and reading goes hand in hand. One cannot go away without the other. So I'm sorry to say, we need the vocabulary, we need to understand that, otherwise we will not be able to hook the right answer. So we have to learn the key vocabulary of the text. It's very important. Let's go to the next one, scan the text. Now, once you have understood skimming the text, the extensive information from the passage or the text, now we are going to talk about some specific units, specific facts from the text. So that is scanning the text, right? So let's go, and this is going to help you answer the questions. There are different kinds of questions that you have to answer, and each one of it gives you a different kind of an answer. So this is going to really help you. So this will take some time, so let it soak in. Just don't get, and my intention is not to terrify you. My intention is to walk you through the entire syllabus so that you can do better. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Once you have brainstormed the theme, once you have skimmed the text, once you have picked up the right key vocabulary, and then you have scanned the text, the last thing is, do you agree or disagree with the writer? I do understand your agreement or disagreement would not make much difference, but you have to internally understand as to, do you agree with the author or you don't agree with the author? That is very important for you. Okay, so this is about what to do when you read a text. Jumping into the question and answers and trying to work on it, and out of 10 questions, 5 of them and the rest 5 have gone wrong, and you feel ridiculous about it, is not the way. We need to take a step-by-step approach so that we go in a rhythm. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Right. What are the do's? Let's do the do's. About what? About reading texts. Okay, so what are we supposed to do when we are reading a text? Make notes. I would also come to, when I say make notes, you could also make a flow chart. I will tell you what a flow chart is. As we run through the sessions, we will understand what a flow chart is. I will definitely help you with that too. Making notes is very important. Every paragraph, when it is broken, it has some sense. That's a reason. It has a reason as to why they broke into a paragraph. So we need to know where each paragraph is going, in which direction it is going. So making notes will help you, or a flow chart will help you get the objective. Try to anticipate the questions. Now, when you're reading the text, randomly try to think, or when you're watching a movie, randomly try to think what kind of a question might pop out from here. Okay, or what kind, when you're watching a web series, just sit down, sit back for a second, or once you have completed one episode, just sit back and think, what kind of a questions might arise from this episode? Now that will really help you. It will also help you in trying to understand or anticipating the questions that might be of importance. Okay, let's go to the next thing. Opening and closing paragraphs require extra focus. When I say opening and closing paragraphs require extra focus, I'm talking about skimming. I'm talking about skimming the text. So opening and closing paragraphs is basically, we were speaking about skim the text. It means the skimming the text, right? Okay. Constantly question yourself while reading the passage. Now, you're reading, sometimes hang on and think, are you still on the passage or your mind has deviated somewhere? It is very important to understand that are you still there or you are long gone. Okay, so constantly question yourself while reading the passage. What? Are you in? This question is a must. You are supposed to be knowing whether are you still on or you're off the text or the whatever you're reading. Okay, so these are some of the do's that you should be following to become a better interpreter or to comprehend things on a better way. Let's see the don'ts. What are the don'ts that we are not supposed to be doing when we are reading the text? Let's see. Do not rely on the trigger words. What are the trigger words? As we go along, we will learn what are the trigger words. They are also called the lamppost words, which actually determine the direction of the passage, as to where is it going and what is it happening, where it could end up and where it could break is what is the trigger words. So we would also learn the trigger words. So some words like however, moreover, furthermore, these are some of the words, they are trigger words or the lamppost words which can actually change the direction of the topic. So, considering these words, don't try to, looking at the word superficially, don't try to come to a conclusion that, the direction of the topic has changed. It is always possible that there would be one more trigger word just in the next line which would actually again change the topic, change the direction of the topic. So beware. Let's go to the next one. Do not overemphasize trivialities. What is a triviality? Insignificant things or small things. Okay, don't give too much of emphasis to trivialities. Don't give too much of importance to small things, thinking that it could be big, it could explode anytime or things like that. Don't do that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Do not memorize. For God's sake, we are not going to reproduce the same thing. I mean, we are not going to write an essay on it. We are just going to solve the reading and writing some question and answer. So please don't memorize. Don't memorize. Okay? You would find some really big words and confusing words that are basically there to confuse you. So please don't get into the trap. Don't memorize. If you see big words come popping up and if you see that they are all over you and it is really, you are becoming breathless, hang on. Wait a minute and then start. Do not memorize. If you want, at the most, underline it and keep it aside in the parking area so that you could retrieve it later. Do not read the passage first. Now, this is one thing that I always contradict. I feel that every person has to find their own way. You just can't dictate someone that this is the right way or this is the right way. You are supposed to understand. I am going to give you some strategies, on the do's, on the don'ts, some more strategies, but you are supposed to formulate your own strategy as to what works with you. Okay? For me, making a flow chart really works out well, but for you, probably not reading the passage first, but reading the question answers might give you, as to what is expected of you, could help you better. That's the reason I'm saying don't try to read the passage first, one way. Later on, when you get a hang of what kind of questions would come in your examination, whatever examination you are taking, whatever standardized test you are taking, you will get a hang of it. At that point of time, you could decide whether you want to read the passage first or you don't want to read the passage first. So, That's for you to formulate. For me, I feel do not read the passage first is contradictory. Depends upon the individuals. When I started off, I started not reading the passage first. Later on, I understood making a flow chart is better. So I put this point there. You have to understand what works with you. Let's go to the next one. Do not spend time on RCs that you cannot comprehend at first. So speeches are something that are really difficult for you. Don't start with them. Literature is something that you don't get a hang of it. Don't start with it. Start with something that you like it. Start with something that you feel that it is easy for you, or you can read it and you still can understand. Start with something that is simple. It will really it will gear your boost up your confidence that you can do better and you can read better and you can understand it better. Let's think. Do not think correct options would come from outside the passage. This is a very valid point. What is the area of a square? Area is equal to L into B, right? Or a rectangle. What is an area of the rectangle? Area is equal to L into B, length into breadth. That is going to be the area. That is the area. So we are not going to talk about anything that comes out of the area, the prescribed area. That is the same with the passage too. The premise of the passage is very important. So we need to hold on to the premise of the passage. So we cannot assume things coming out of the passage because we interrupted it like that, interpreted it like that, or we thought that that would be the right answer. No, that cannot be the right answer because it is your interpretation or your inference. Now, if you are taking an IELTS exam, you have an option called not given. Understand? Even if it is the most obvious thing that it should be happening, but if it is not given in the passage, in writing, that is not the right answer. Okay, so do not think correct option would pop up from outside the passage. Remain in the premise, don't go out of the premise. It's a very big no, no, no. Okay. Like everything else, reading is a skill. How? Jordan became Jordan, or your Bruce Lee became a Bruce Lee because it was a skill and he practiced it. Reading is a skill too, so practice it. On the first day, Bruce Lee was not Bruce Lee. He was just an amateur player. But as he went on practicing, as he practiced, he says, I practiced 10,000 kicks. One kick 10,000 times. He did not practice 10,000 kicks one time. He practiced one kick 10,000 times. So that's how you become an expert in reading. That's how you become an expert in understanding what to pick up and what to leave. That's a skill. Let me give you an example. For example, if you are, you go to a computer expert, you need some information, you go into the website, into the browser, and you throw your question there, and you will see hundreds of things popping up, but you have no idea as to where to go. You will hit the first one that gives you the answer, and you feel that is the only answer, but you go down and down, you will have hundreds of other pages that still has that answer to your question. Sometimes you don't find an answer. But you know what? A person who is well versed with surfing, who is well versed with finding information, you give him 100 things and he would come up with the apt answer. That is a skill. Okay, a skill is honed. It is honed with practice. You really have to work on it to become better. So reading, in the beginning, you could start like reading so that you would just kickstart your journey. As you go forward, you would just go with the flow so that you get a hang of it. Then You could start off with some reading passages. You also got to understand what interests you and what does not interest you. For example, me and my brother, both of us are amazing. You know, we read a lot. But then I read different stuff, genre, and he reads different stuff. So I pick up books that are more, yeah, that are more realistic, that has more background, cultural background, and heavy books. Whereas he picks up books like Dan Brown's, or he picks up, he used to love thrillers like Sidney Sheldon, and stuff like that, Jeffrey Archer. He would want some thrillers and all that, but thriller was never my stuff. Even today, thriller is not my stuff. I just can't take that tension of what might happen next or who might get killed. It drains me out, so I can't enjoy that. So we took up different genres. So you need to understand, when you are reading, which genre you like the best. So that will give you an focus and as to what you like. And once you start reading what you like, then you could jump on to reading what is needed. Okay, so that is about reading. These are some of the books that you could start with. I started off these books when I was a child. Huckleberry Finn was a book that I had in my 5th grade in my ICSE board exam. So 4th grade, I'm sorry. 4th grade, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. If it is difficult for you to understand, you could use the abridged form that will be simpler and you will understand it better. This will talk about the child, a child who has become an orphan, and he goes into an orphan house and how he suffers there, how he tries to escape. It's a beautiful story, just a small book that you could have and you could start reading and you will love it, I tell you. And it is so small that it will not take you more than 1 or 2 days to complete it, seriously speaking, or at the most, if it is in abridged form, around 3 to 4 days, and you are going to love that book. So try reading Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, you will really love it. The next one is The Diary of a Young Girl, Annie Frank. Now, frankly, this book is really small, and this is a small notebook. What she talks about, the Holocaust and German invasions, the Nazi invasions, and how the children were transported, but yet they were caught, they were sent to the Holocaust. There's so many different things that you would know about, the Holocaust and stuff that has happened in Germany, where the Jews were killed. Great Expectations is written by Charles Dickens. Now, that's one more wonderful book. To start with, I would suggest that you start with Huckleberry Finn or Young Girl. This could come in the end, but still I have put it there. Somebody who is already reading, somebody who already knows what to read and how to go about it, and they want some books, so this is some of that. The Lord of the Flies is an amazing book. Again, this was a part of my literature first year examination, and I just loved reading this book. William Golding, this is again an amazing book to start with. The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I think most of you have seen the movie, so you could read it. It's something, a fantasy world that it would talk about. The Odyssey by Homer, it's a very old one, and it's written about a sailor who goes around the world in a ship, and he talks about different cultures and stuff like that. So this is the Odyssey, and the last one is To Kill a Mockingbird. This is about Harper Lee, and it talks about the racial discrimination that happens in US. So these are some of the books that you have. I have put the links on the website, so you could just go there and just have to click on the link, and you can open the book and you could start reading. So these are some of the books. I'll keep adding them in the library so that you can get a hang of it. You could use it and you could start reading. Apart from that, it will also give you the confidence, and it will also give you the the inspiration to start and read and then go ahead. So let's start reading. It was an amazing experience for me to teach all of you. I would love to listen from all of you as to how you liked the class, or did you like it, or did you understand it? Was it going too fast, or was it being, you understand it properly? What is it that you want more in the class? So I could just add it on. So let's start reading and let's start the journey to SAT. Okay. Thank you so much. Hope this session was really informative. Thank you so much.